All right, guys. I want to go through, as I do the answer key, I thought I'd film it so that you can see how these problems work. Now, the first three should be pretty straightforward. Those are FOIL. So this guy, the first is going to be the 5m times the 3m, so 15m squared. The outer is the 5m times the negative 2. So, and when you FOIL, I would keep change. I think that'll be better for you in terms of keeping track of signs. So 5m times negative 2 is negative 10m. Inner is 2 times 3m, 6m. And notice if I keep change, there's pluses between all the terms. And then the last 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Adding your inner and outer like terms, you get 15m squared plus negative 4m plus negative 4. Note that you don't add exponents when you add like terms. All right, number 2, now you could FOIL this like normal and you get the right answer. But if you notice it's the difference of two terms, oops, sorry, TV. It's the difference of two squares pattern. So I really don't need to do the inner and the outer because they're going to cancel. But it's p squared, and I'll show you that they cancel, plus negative 3p plus 3p, and then plus negative 9. So I really didn't need to do the whole FOIL. First and last would have been fine in this case because those cancel out. So the answer is p squared minus 9. And the third one, keep change, is h squared plus negative 7h plus negative 3h plus 21. Adding the inner and outer, it's h squared plus negative 10h plus 21. Okay, now 4 through 8 is just asking for the square root, and I wanted to see if you understood that you'd have to take half of the exponent. It's easy to take the square root of, say, a number, but here the square root of x squared is x because there's an invisible 1 there, and that's half of 2. So x is the answer. And if you want to check it, if you multiply this times itself, you should get back x squared, and you do. Okay, take half of the 4, b squared. Take half of the 6, y to the 3rd. Take half of 2n, which is just 1n or n. Take half of 4n, which is 2n, when it's raining. And just to check, right, b to the 2n times b to the 2n, that times itself has to give you b to the 4n back because that's what a square root does. Those two are going to add to make b to the 4n. So that checks. Down in the factoring section, remember you have to follow the checklist. So the first step is to factor out the GCF if there is one. So looking very carefully, I see that both terms have a b in common. So my first step is to factor out the b. And I get a squared minus b squared. You should distribute it to make sure that you did the GCF step correctly. And when I distribute it, I get this back. Now you're not finished. I have to go to step 2, look for a special pattern. I notice I have the difference of two squares here. And the difference of two squares factors into a plus and a minus. So it's a plus b times a minus b. All right, number 10, there's a GCF of 4, because 4 is in 4 and 12, and they each have an a. So pulling out 4a first, I get a squared plus 3. And then going on to step 2, looking for a special pattern, this is not the difference of two squares. I mean, a squared is a perfect square, but that doesn't have a square root, and that is not the difference, that's the sum. That would be my answer. Number 11 is the difference of two squares. There is no GCF, so I'm right at step 2. Remember, you have to take the square root pieces, right? N plus 10, n minus 10. Okay, number 12, I see no GCF. So step 2, that's a perfect square, that's a perfect square. There's a minus between them, so it means it's the difference between two squares. His square root is 2y, his square root is 5. It factors into two parentheses. One has a plus, one has a minus. So 2y plus 5, 2y minus 5. Okay, and then number 13, this is the difference of two squares. So the square root would be x to the 1n and y to the 1n. So you get plus minus x to the n plus y to the n, x to the n minus y to the n. And then on number 14, no GCF, it's the difference of two squares. Now the square root, taking half of the exponent, is x squared. And the square root of this piece is y squared. Now putting them in the two parentheses, plus, minus, I get x squared plus y squared, x squared minus y squared. Now looking closely at this, number 3 in the checklist says completely factored question mark. That means you really want to check your answers to see if you can do anything else. The first piece here is the sum of two squares, and that's not a pattern, so I can't do anything with that. The second piece is the difference of two squares still. So this piece is going to break down again. The first addition piece is just going to carry down and be part of your answer. So then I get x plus y, x minus y. All right, there you go.